morning, everybody. It's Friday. I'm so happy it's Friday. So we are going to conclude our week of learning about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., very important figure in history we've talked about. So let's listen to a story. Okay, we're going to listen to a picture book of Martin Luther King again because you do have your reading test today. Are you ready? Are you ready, Elizabeth? Lillian, are you ready? We'll listen to this real quick and then we'll do something fun, okay? I think we can do full screen.
Okay, I didn't know if it was going to take me out. There we go.
A Picture Book of Martin Luther King Jr. A Picture Book of Martin Luther King Jr. by David A. Adler, illustrated by Robert Casilla. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of America's great leaders. He was a powerful speaker, and he spoke out against laws which kept black people out of many schools and jobs. He led protests and marches demanding fair laws for all people. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin's father was a pastor. His mother had been a teacher. Martin had an older sister, Willie Christine, and a younger brother, Alfred Daniel. Young Martin liked to play baseball, football, and basketball. He liked to ride his bicycle and to sing. He often sang in his father's church. Young Martin played in his backyard with his friends. One day, he was told that two of his friends could no longer play with him because they were white and he was black. Martin cried. He didn't understand why the color of his skin should matter to anyone. Martin's mother told him that many years ago black people were brought in chains to America and sold as slaves. She told him that long before Martin was born, the slaves had been set free. However, there were still people who did not treat black people fairly. In Atlanta, where Martin lived, and elsewhere in the United States, there were white-only signs. Black people were not allowed in some parks, pools, hotels, restaurants, and even schools. Blacks were kept out of many jobs. Martin learned to read at home before he was old enough to start school. All through his childhood, he read books about black leaders. Martin was a good student. He finished high school 2 years early and was just 15 when he entered Morehouse College in Atlanta. At college, Martin decided to become a minister. After Martin was graduated from Morehouse, he studied for a doctorate at Boston University. While he was there, he met Coretta Scott. She was studying music. They fell in love and married. In 1954, Martin Luther King Jr. began his first job as a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama. The next year, Rosa Parks, a black woman, was arrested in Montgomery for sitting in the white-only section of a bus. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led a protest. Blacks throughout the city refused to ride the buses. Dr. King said, "There comes a time when people get tired of being kicked about." One night, while Dr. King was at a meeting, someone threw a bomb into his house. Martin's followers were angry. They wanted to fight. Martin told them to go home peacefully. "We must love our white brothers," he said. "We must meet hate with love." The bus protest lasted almost a year. When it ended, there were no more white-only sections on buses. Dr. King decided to move back to Atlanta in 1960. There, he continued to lead peaceful protests against white-only waiting rooms, lunch counters, and restrooms. He led many marches for freedom. In 1963, Dr. King led the biggest march of all, the March on Washington. More than 200,000 black and white people followed him. "I have a dream," he said in his speech. "I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." The next year, in 1964, Dr. King was awarded one of the greatest honors any man can win, the Nobel Peace Prize. The country was changing. New laws were passed. Blacks could go to the same schools as whites. They could go to the same stores, restaurants, and hotels. White-only signs were against the law. Dr. King told his followers to protest peacefully, but there were some riots and some violence. Then, in April 1968, Dr. King went to Memphis, Tennessee. He planned to march so black and white garbage workers would get the same pay for the same work. On April 4th in Memphis, Dr. King stood outside his motel room. Another man, James Earl Ray, was hiding nearby. He pointed a rifle at Dr. King. He fired the gun. An hour later, Dr. King was dead. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of a world free of hate, prejudice, and violence. Carved on the stone which marks his grave are the words, "I'm free at last." The end.
So sad.
Yes, it is sad. So raise your hand if you can tell me something that made Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. important. Why was he important? Why is he special? Name something, Brooklyn.
Because he made white people and black people go to the same schools and the same places.
Okay, did he specifically make them go to the same places? Or did he help change the laws so that they could go to the same schools? That's right.
Change the law.
Yeah, he helped change the rules. Good. What about something else that made him special, Lily?
He was the best boycott and many other peaceful protests.
Yeah, he led the boycott on the buses to allow the black people and white people to sit together on the bus or sit in the front of the bus or the back of the bus, wherever you want to, okay? He led that protest and he led many other protests, okay? Emma?
He was leading like a lot of people to Washington.
Okay, he even gave important speeches in Washington, and he led people to encourage change. Okay, who else? Anybody online? Can you tell me something else important about Dr. Martin Luther King? Elise?
No matter what bad or good happened to him, he still kept on going.
Yeah, I mean, people were ugly. People were mean. The story told us that someone even threw a bomb through his window at his home. Okay, but he still kept going. He never gave up. Okay, so he was dedicated, and he just didn't give up. Dario?
He wanted freedom for black people.
Yeah, he wanted freedom for black people. Good. Do you think it was pretty important or pretty impressive that he graduated high school 2 years early?
Yeah.
He must have been a very smart man, right? A very smart man. And not only that, he went to college, and then he went back to college and got his doctorate degree. We talked about that yesterday. And when we watched the I Have a Dream speech, we noticed that he was a very good speaker, okay? When he spoke, people paid attention, didn't they? I know you all were mesmerized watching him give his I Have a Dream speech, weren't you? Yeah, I mean, he just has a presence that makes you stand up and pay attention. Does anyone else know anything? Want to share anything? Evie?
After he helped change the laws, the white-only signs were against the law.
Good, good. Yeah, they had to take those signs down because things just weren't for white people only anymore, were they? Once the laws were changed. There was something I was going to tell you about. Oh, isn't it important that Dr. King, when somebody was mean to him, was he mean back to them?
No.
No. Okay, everything he did was peaceful. Okay, he did not encourage violence at all. No fighting. He remained peaceful. Some of his protests were like a sit-in where people would just sit, okay? And they didn't throw things or break things. They just peacefully sat and tried to make a difference. So he really is an important man in our history. You've got your quiz today. Does anyone have questions about Martin Luther King before you take your quiz today? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Well, today is Fun Friday. So really quick, we're going to have some fun. So I told most of you to make sure that you had a clean sheet of paper out. Maybe a piece of computer paper or drawing paper. If you don't have that, just take a journal out and you can do the activity in your journal. Okay. We're going to do a directed draw of who? Guess who? Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? All right. So, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to draw a rectangle. Okay, and don't draw this. Okay, do not draw this. This just represents my sheet of paper. Okay? It just represents my sheet of paper. So, towards the bottom of the paper, the first thing we're going to draw are Dr. King's shoulders. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom. And shoulders are kind of round. I'm going to go in a little dip and come back up and draw it like that because your neck goes here. See how I did a little dip, teeny tiny? Okay, so towards the bottom of your paper, go ahead and try to draw Dr. King's shoulders. Remember, they're a little bit rounded on the edges because your shoulders are rounded.
That's what practice is for. Every time you draw a directed draw, you get better.
Well, remember that we are not Miss Thompson. We are not the best artists in the world. I know I can't draw like Miss Thompson. However, you can give it your best try. Okay? Just give it your best try. All right. So once you've drawn the shoulders, we're actually going to draw his shirt next. And it's pretty cool. We're going to draw like the letter V. See that? Just like a V. To represent his shirt. Okay, you still with me? Thumbs up online if you're still with me. Okay. The next thing we're going to draw is his tie. Because Dr. King, every time I've seen him in pictures and things, he's had on a jacket and a tie. So he dressed very professionally. So we're going to come in the middle of this V, and towards the top, we're going to kind of draw like a little rectangle. Can you see that? Like a little rectangle. No, it's not a bow tie. Then we're going to go to the bottom corner and pull it down to the V. We're going to come to the other side and pull it down to the V so that it kind of looks like a tie. Again, remember, I'm not Miss Thompson. I'm just doing the best I can, and that's all you need to do, the best you can. Okay? So next, we're gonna draw his face. And apparently Dr. King does not have a neck because our directed drawing does not have a neck on it, but we're gonna draw his head. And your head is kind of like an oval, kind of like an egg shape. Okay, so I'm gonna start at the bottom, and I'm gonna kind of draw an egg shape. That's his noggin. That's his head. So next you're gonna draw his head. It's kind of like an egg shape. Or your noggin, your head. So go ahead and draw the head. And the next thing we're gonna do is draw his ears. So towards the side, think of his ears as like a half an oval. My poor Dr. King has big ears over here. Okay, so you're going to draw his ears. Everybody got the ears? And they don't have to be perfect. Remember, we're just doing our best. These are fun things to do on Friday. I love doing these directed draws. Okay, the next thing is Dr. King was not bald. So we're going to draw his hair. Okay? And so what Miss Stuber's going to do is very close to the top of his head, I'm going to kind of do close squiggles like that. But I'm going to do it really close together. So I'm going to go ahead and draw his hair. Okay, so go ahead and draw some hair. Oh no, Elizabeth, are you in the car? Oh no, are you able to draw? Okay, cool. All right. And the next thing we're going to do is draw the details of his face. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is kind of even with the top of the ears, I'm going to start and draw some eyes. Okay, kind of with the top of, he's got big eyes. My Dr. King has big eyes. Okay, and then I'm going to draw the pupils or the colored part of his eyes. So you can draw eyes on Dr. King. Okay, and between, you can do his eyes closer. I see on my directed drawing paper they're a little bit closer, but mine are a little far apart, poor fella. Then you're going to draw his nose. Bless his heart, look at that nose.
Oh wow.
Just do your best. It's kind of like a,
Which nose?
like a little triangle maybe. And once you draw his nose, I'm just going to give him 2 eyebrows above his eyes. 2 eyebrows above his eyes.
That is creepy.
And what do we need to draw last? His what?
Mouth.
His mouth. So I'm actually going to kind of do like, oh, that's too big. Kind of like a little oval. And then I'm going to do another one for the bottom. See that?
It's his lips.
Okay. And don't worry about the space because Dr. King had a mustache. Okay. So I'm going to start under the nose. And I'm going to start drawing little lines to represent Dr. King's mustache. And there you have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I hope he's not watching us to see how poorly Miss Stuber drew him. But there he is.
I don't like Mike.
Okay, really quick, everybody just hold up your pictures. I want to see them.
Wow.
Ooh, you guys did a great job. Okay, just hold it up when you're ready. Okay, so with every directed draw, you have an assignment. Okay? Your assignment is to, number one, color your picture. Now you need to do first and second grade coloring. We don't scribble scrabble in first and second grade. We don't do it. Okay? You need to color like first and second graders. You need to fill in all the spaces and keep it neat, not messy. Then, I like Elise's. Elise did a little speech bubble on hers. Let me show you what she did. She made a little speech bubble like that, and she wrote, I believe. That was kind of cool. You could do something like that if you wanted to. Okay? So the second part of your assignment, is to write a paragraph for Miss Stuber in your writing journal and tell me everything you learned about Dr. King. Okay? Tell me everything you learned. Impress me. Okay? With all the facts that you remember about Dr. King. And then I want you to take a picture of your picture and your journal and upload it into Google Classroom. Okay, I can't wait to see your pictures and I can't wait to read your paragraphs. When you're writing a paragraph, how does a sentence begin? What does it begin with? With a capital letter. What does it end with?
Punctuation.
That's right, a punctuation mark. And the order of the words needs to make sense. Okay? If you write a sentence and it has a capital letter and it has a punctuation mark, but the word order doesn't make sense, it's not a sentence. Okay? So you need to read the sentences that you write. Your paragraph should have about 5 sentences at least. Okay? I don't want you to scribble scrabble your picture and then turn in 1 sentence. You need to have at least 5 sentences. You learned a lot about Dr. King. And the books are still posted in Google Classroom so that if you need to go back and look at them, you can do that, okay? Does anyone have any questions about your assignment for today? Anybody? Anybody? Evie, what's your question, honey?
Like, what if you don't have that color picture?
You have to use what you have, honey. Just do your best. Okay? Harper?
Can we color it with colored pencils?
Sure. That would be fine. Crayons or colored pencils would be fine. Okay? Does anyone else have a question about your assignment?
No, I just want to show you this.
Very nice. You're gonna color them and then submit a picture in Google Classroom. So I can't wait to see all of your drawings. Gavin, did you have a question? Okay. If there are no questions, I'm going to turn the board over to Miss Sanchez. So why don't you put your drawing aside and make sure you've got your dry erase board and markers, okay? Put your drawing aside for now. Make sure you've got your dry erase board and markers. Get ready for math with Miss Sanchez, okay? Good job today, guys. Oh, don't forget to take your reading test online. Okay, take your reading test after Google Meeting. Yes, that looks great. You guys are